Wormhole Manifest. All right, we are back again for another exciting episode. Today's episode, a little bit different. I'd like to welcome back a good friend who had a chance to just sit and chat about random things on episode 8, along with my wife and partner Rachel. They kind of steamrolled me, and since I didn't have any actual questions prepared, it just flowed naturally, and there wasn't much I could do about it. So, but it was fun and good content. And for those of you that know us already and wanted to catch up with us, you got to get a good dose of that. So this time, I'd like to go a bit deeper into the mind and character that is Frankie. Frankie, your name has been added once again to the manifest. And hopefully we'll get a chance to get to know you and share more about your experiences with mental health and as we travel through the wormhole of introspection and anomalies galore. So welcome back.
Hello.
It's Thanksgiving.
It is.
What are we thankful for?
I am thankful. What am I thankful for?
It's such a difficult question. It's like catches you off guard. It's like, what?
I don't know. My cats, I'm thankful for my cats. Yeah, that definitely thankful for them. Just, the usual things, roof over my head, food in my fridge, heat now that it's winter.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Definitely.
Thankful you're not like homeless and
yeah. Yeah. And relatively, good things. Sorry, I was distracted.
Hi, Rachel.
Waving to Rachel in the background. Yeah, because it could be worse. As much as we all are like, raise this fist, shake your fist, this country, and there are worse places. There are definitely better places, but there would be worse places to be. So far, I mean, that could change in a week. You know what I mean? But
exactly.
But for today, yeah.
Yeah, this is pretty typical for Rachel and I's Thanksgiving of just kind of sitting around watching TV and not doing a whole lot, like my kids live in another household and they do their own things, and like it's just a big split family kind of, something I'm thankful for is that I have Rachel in my life and we can hang out together and we don't have a bunch of chaos in the background of like other family members always wanting our attention and dragging us to, like places across the country to like go visit and do all this stuff. My ex always had that going on. Like my family has never been that close. So like in my previous relationship, my past marriage, like it was constantly a, travel around the world to visit all these different family members, at any given time, multiple times a year. We have to go to this wedding. We have to go to this graduation. We have to go to this thing and that thing. And I'm like, when does it end? Like I just want to sleep. I just want to like play some video games or watch some anime or like a movie or, like when can we just like chill out and go to a theater and watch a movie, like, and not have to. And then once you have kids, you're like, all the other family that wants you to go to these things, they're like, oh, we want to see your kids, your new babies and stuff like that. So it's like, okay, sure. Let's put babies and kids into like a vehicle and drive like 12 hours to go visit whoever because they want to see a kid. And I'm like, the kid's not going to like it. I think the kid would be more happy like just sitting at home watching TV or playing in the backyard or something, or whatever. But it's chaos, and I'm glad that I am thankful that I don't have to deal with that shit anymore. Like my kids are a lot older and they are out of town actually right now. Like they're in Florida, visiting their grandparents who aren't from Florida, but they wanted to go to Florida for some strange reason. And they're camping during Thanksgiving. So like camping. I don't understand it, but it's just, whatever, the kids are having fun. I texted my son earlier and he's like, we had a pretty good time last week and whatever, but they're down there for like a week and a half, and they're down there for Thanksgiving. And I'm like, is when you're a kid, it's important to do things, I guess, and that's cool. Like I'm glad they're getting to see the world and the country and all that, but like I'm the most thankful during this Thanksgiving that I don't have to deal with that shit. So I'm like, me
I'm
and Rachel get to
thankful.
chill.
Yeah. I'm thankful I've never had to. Yeah. Because for sure, when
Yeah.
you're a kid, like I grew up, we had to go to grandma's for all the holidays, and it was the grandma that was the furthest away. So it was like an hour and a half. And when you're a kid, an hour and a half in the car, back in the day when you didn't have a cell phone or anything, oh
Oh
my
yeah.
God, let's talk about like feeling old all of a sudden, thinking, wow, yeah, like I had to entertain myself all that time in the back of the car. But it was great because then you get to see your cousins. But yeah, the
Yep.
older you get, and then you start becoming more of a, like, you have less in common with your cousins now because they're older and everybody's getting opinions, and like they aren't cool anymore. And so you don't want to go to holidays because everybody is just wrong. It feels like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because I come from, the Christian sort of right side of the world. And when you start deviating from that, it just becomes ridiculous to try to spend time with family.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I grew up that kind of similar way, like with the in the church, and
Yeah.
like my parents were very like, my dad wasn't so much. I mean, he was Christian, but like the my mom was like psychotic Christian, so she
Mm,
like went to every kind of Christian church there was that she could find a follow, like find a group of people that would let her in. Basically, like it was just, there was like the Pentecostals, Baptist, Catholic, Lutheran. Like wherever she could find friends, she wanted to go to their church to be a part of it. And it was just,
well, there is
and
a
she would drag me
very,
along because I was young, and I was
yeah.
like, I don't want.
Well, there is a
It
very
was crazy.
social thing about it that, as you get older, is to make friends. Well, how do you do that? You don't go to a church, you don't have children. So where are you going to make friends? Sort of. So if you're looking for feeling um, a sense of membership and like, oh, these people like me, that's a great place to go, because if you're in there, you're in there, and like everybody's nice to you. And from my experience anyway, but it's a
Yeah.
great place if you're looking to belong somewhere. They're definitely willing to take you in and be like, hey, you can belong
Oh
here.
yeah.
You just have to, believe this set of ridiculous garbage. But if you're okay
Yep.
with that, we will take you in and we will make you feel like you're important in this world, and like that you have a purpose. That's what it's about. That's what it's
Yeah.
about. But like,
I mean,
yeah.
I imagine it like a long time ago. It was more of like a community thing. You had your,
Oh yeah.
I grew up in a place that it was a pretty big city, and every few blocks you had a church. Like, and there was a big church. It was like constructed like back in the 1800s or something. And it was like, there was so many people that belonged to that neighborhood, and like they went to that church and they were part of that congregation or whatever you want to call it. And it was that community, and it revolved around that church. But
Mm-hmm.
there was like, if you lived like 6 blocks away, you went to a completely different church, and that was your congregation, and like that's how you grew up. And you met people outside of that. But the bigger the world started getting, like people were, you know I guess as technology is advancing and things, like people were like, I'm not gonna just stay in my neighborhood. I'm gonna
Mm.
go, and then like the whole thing in the thing was the 70s or 80s, like people started getting kids started getting bused to different like um public schools that were across the city. So you had to meet, and there was segregation like back in the day, but like there was, like when I was a kid, like if you went to a public school, depending on where you lived, you had to go to a certain public school. And like there was like the first time I ever went to a public school was in seventh grade. I think the second time I flunked 7th grade, but I went to, and I got bused to basically a different school, and that it was in a completely different part of the city, and it took like, like 35-45 minutes to get there. And I was like, holy shit, I never been to this part of the city before in my life. And there's kids in this school, and of course, there's people of different ethnicities at this school that I wasn't used to at my school that I went to,
Mm,
because I was in a completely different part of the city.
mm,
So it was like immediate like indoctrination to that, there are different people in the world, not just your group that you grew up with and school that you grew up with. So it was kind of a slap in the face, like, welcome to reality, like, we're not,
yeah,
the city's really not that big, like,
yeah.
you have to deal with other people, and you have to learn that. And it wasn't, it was it was very different, and I welcomed it, but it
Mm.
was it was kind of crazy at the time too, being that, remembering back, I'm like, I should have just went to public school the whole time, and then I wouldn't have learned all this other crazy religious stuff, and
Yeah.
then been susceptible to like the what do you call it, like the I was, I don't know. Damn it. Can't think of the word. I was sheltered, like,
Oh, well, I grew up in a town of about 800 people and um had to, and until the 6th grade was in a Christian school that we had to drive like 40 minutes to get to every day.
wow.
And it was a
If,
it was a very small Christian school, so like you knew everybody in your school pretty much. And I went there until I was in the 6th grade. And then after a year of public school, the areas merged because when you start having dwindling populations in rural areas, you have to start combining your classes and busing students further to get to different places. And like, so they split up two local schools into, both had elementary schools, and one was going to be the high school and one was going to be the middle school kind of stuff. So I would get on a bus out in the country and we'd do the route
wow.
and then go to the school in town and then get on another bus and get bused to another town that was like 20, 30 miles away.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was until the 6th grade. And then we
Wow.
moved to a big city. No, we moved to the big city and then I went to ninth through 10th grade. I was living in like a big city. And then all of a sudden I had like public transportation, and it was very, very way different than, the rural upbringing. It was just like, here you go.
Yeah, I can
This is what
imagine.
life is like. Like we had no people of color growing up. There was one in the whole county. Like we
Wow.
didn't have any ethnicity there, no
Well, and
Oriental people or anything.
that's weird because, like, even though I was in a city, I mean, I was in a pretty big city, but I was just in the like white part of that city.
Mm.
And like the school I went to was like, I don't know how my parents afforded to send me to the school, because I'm the youngest out of 7 kids. So like I'm
Wow.
the like all my other siblings basically grew up in foster homes because my parents couldn't afford to have kids, and my
Uh,
grandparents had the kids taken away. But I was the only kid that actually grew up with my own mom and dad. Um,
wow.
and I think my mom just at that point, since I was the last kid, like, she wanted me to get a really good education, and she wanted to make sure that like one out of her 7 kids like got a lot of attention or something. So she's like, I'm going to send this kid to this Lutheran school, this parochial,
Mm,
like pay for school, so he can get
yeah.
like a really good education. And like it worked out really weird because like I did get a really good education up till 7th grade, but like I had so many family problems at home
Mhm.
that I ended up flunking 7th grade and then had to go to a public school. So it was really ridiculous. But the thing that is crazy is that we had one black student in my school, even though we lived in a big city.
Hmm.
And like it was so weird, but like kind of relating to like your school, like you didn't have people of color in your school, but you lived kind of more rural, like outside, outside of a city, but like it's just it's weird. There's like that dynamic that like no matter
Yeah.
where you are, you can be in an area that is that that has that kind of weird social like segregation, I guess. Like it depends on what area you live in, even if it's a highly populated area or like a not so populated area.
So the issue with where I grew up was that there was no cities nearby. There were towns because towns
Mm,
are like of a lower population. So that's a very specific low population type thing. And there was only
yeah.
towns for, hundreds of miles. And so what happens in these towns is that everybody's very cliquey because now that I live in another small town in a very similar-ish area, like
Mm,
where everybody grew up together, right? Like you
yeah.
married somebody from high school and you stayed here and you became a farmer kind of stuff.
Hmm.
And so there it was different because like if you have lineage in the area and your mother was a certain type of woman or your dad was a certain type of guy, then those parents of the kids you're going to school with are telling their children, don't hang out with that girl, her, whatever, because they went to high school with your mom and dad or your mom or your dad, and they know what the fuck, they were like. And they're like, if these kids are going to be anything like these people, you know,
Mm,
don't go over there. Don't, hang out, which is
hmm.
one of the biggest problems, like for people, I think, moving to small towns is everybody's clicky and they know
Yeah.
everybody. So they're not letting in outsiders unless you have kids in school. But also, if you're from the area, it's also very difficult. Like,
Yeah. I can see that because like I mean, like right now I live in a really tiny town
mm,
and I have for the past 8, 9 years, and it's just been uh, if it wasn't for the military base that I retired off of, like there's really nothing else in this town. But like when I started my own business here, it just like I started to see that there's people here that have been here a long time, and there's people that are newer, and there's quite a difference in the behaviors or the I guess the
mm,
thought processes between people that haven't been here very long and the people that have been here a long time. They like the people that have been here a long time want things to be a certain way.
like it's
And
always been.
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
then the people that are newer are like, hey, let's make this place really cool, and let's update
Mm,
things and do
hmm.
stuff. And the people that are older are like they push back. They're like, no, no, hold on. Like let's think about this a minute.
Yeah.
And that was difficult for me trying to run a business that was like trying to
Hmm.
bring people from other towns here,
Yeah.
like it was just difficult. I'm like, oh well.
How do you think living in such a small rural area? Because I've been to your town, so I know what
Yeah.
like the areas around it are like. And how do you think that? Do you think that had any impact on your mental health over the last years?
um oh yeah, definitely. Like when I first moved here, probably 10 years ago. Well, it was in 2009. Beginning of 2009 is when I took the job that moved me here, and I almost noticed right away that it was like things were not the same as what I was used to, because I moved from the East Coast, from like a kind of it was highly populated, but like it was very rural. Like it was like an hour and a half south of DC on the East Coast, and like now I was moving to like the middle, like central, like middle of nowhere Midwest, and that was very different. I was used to driving like maybe an hour, and I was like in several big cities. There was like Baltimore and
Mm,
Washington D.C. and the whole counties that are all around it have like lots of population and cool things to do. But yeah, like immediately when I moved here, and that brings up a good point about the mental health thing. Um, it, there's a when you're in that kind of a change of atmosphere, I would say, like you start to think of a lot of different things more, like what am I doing with my life, these kinds of things. And especially during a career move, when you're changing careers, those things become more and more apparent. I think the things with changing careers and moving halfway across the country to a place that has like nothing to do, uh, there, I don't know. That's actually kind of a difficult question because like I start to think back and there's so many things that have happened over the past 10 years that it gets difficult to isolate things that have contributed to um, my mental health issues that I've had. Um, you're the guest, so we need to. I'm going to do an episode. I was thinking of that the other day. I was like, I need to do an episode where I basically just talk about me and I like lay out all the insane things that have happened over the past, like all the things that made me realize that I have meant like a mental illness,
Mm.
and the things that made me have to go to therapy. Like I've had many therapists and psychiatrists, and I've been on like every kind of medication, and
Mm-hmm.
all this kind of stuff, and it's like I need to, for people that are out there listening to this show, and every time I say, your mental health matters, there's, mental health awareness. I want this show to give people, a sense of hope, like I want to share my experiences. I want to have people on the show that have different experiences to share their experiences too, to let those people out there
Mm.
know that they're not alone. That's the main thing. I want to help, and I want it to contribute uh, to helping people. That's the thing. That's what I wanted to do with this show when I started it. Um, so I'm gonna have to do an episode at some point to uh, show people where I've been and what I've been through, so that they know that they're not alone. Because I know that a lot of other people have probably been through a lot of similar things, and then start to reiterate a lot of the things that I've done to get out of that pit that I was in for so
Mm.
long. And yeah, so that would take like probably a whole episode at least just to go in.
Oh, trust me. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I
like
would.
this is our lucky 13th episode.
Oh, good.
This
Oh,
is
great. Fantastic.
so to celebrate that. What is? Let's see. Here's a good question. Um, okay, what is to you, Frankie? What
Mm.
does mental health mean to you?
Oh, geez. You should have sent me these questions beforehand.
Oh, then
um, I think, uh, well, that's a difficult question. Like, what does good mental health look like? I could probably say what good mental health
well, yeah,
looks
let's go
like.
with that then.
And so I think good mental health looks like a healthy sense of self awareness,
Hmm.
um, uh, I want to say content. Well, I want to say contentment, but I feel like people would be like,
No,
"Well,
that's good.
contentment is just, you know,
Well, I think
yeah,
it's better to be
like,
content than some people say like happy. I would just want to be happy. I just
well,
want to feel
happy
happy.
is,
But
you
that's
know what?
way different,
You can't feel happy all the time.
right?
You can't
Exactly.
because it 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 just doesn't work. If you're happy all the time, then it becomes meaningless almost just to be
Yeah.
happy. I think I don't know. We won't get too
Well,
deep into
yeah.
that, but that
Well, the whole
yeah.
there's the yin and yang thing. There's the black and white. There's the lightness and the dark. It has to balance out. And that's the thing about being happy is like it's an emotion, and it's also like a state of mind, but like
Mm,
you have to have it balanced. There's no good or bad. Like there's things that happen. It's the balance that makes our universe and everything, or makes the world turn. Like we
yeah.
can't have one without the other. And so
Yeah.
you can't just be happy without having the times that you're sad or mad or whatever else.
But you
So
can
it's
definitely be content. Content can be.
that is true. And that's what I have found. Like, and
Yeah.
that was very difficult, for a long
Yeah.
time to realize, is what I wasn't looking for was the pure bliss and happiness that I once thought was like in some kind of like fairy tale fantasy, like that's
Yeah.
never going to happen. But when you wake up one day and you realize I have everything I need,
Yeah.
and I should just appreciate the things that I have, even though I may still feel sad or bad or whatever,
Yeah.
you can be content and say, I have everything I need. I will get by and I will get through no matter how bad I feel. And that's a very, once you realize that, it changes everything. And that's very important, I think, so that's a good point. Like
But
bringing up
even
contentment.
but even to be content, you don't have to, you can still, because I think a lot of people think of contentment as just like giving up or settling. And you can still have goals of things you want to achieve,
Oh yeah,
but you can,
absolutely.
and be content in your station. And just like, I think part of it comes from um creating realistic goals, really, and then achieving those and being content in achieving small goals.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think another one is that's really important is comfort with self,
Mm.
like learning to be comfortable with yourself and who you are and what you stand for, which is a bit of self-confidence, I guess. A comfort with self, I guess, is, yeah, I guess that's just self-confidence. Either way you put it.
Yeah.
I think that's part of good mental health. Because if you can be content with yourself and you can be content with, how things are going on around you, I think that's, you know,
Yeah.
that's all part of it. And with a good self-awareness, that doesn't make you, because you can have too much self-awareness and then it will hinder you.
True.
I think. But that's also where it balances out with having a good sense of self. Like if you're self,
Speaking.
oh, go ahead.
Oh well, I mean that all makes sense, and like if and a good sense of self. I'm still dealing with that quite a bit too. There's That reminds me of times in my past where I I have like and this is something I need to put into one of those episodes where I talk about myself and all the past issues, but like I have basically like a borderline personality disorder. So there's been years that I've gone by and I've lived as someone else. Like I've lived as a different person. Like I've created or manifested uh, characters that I've seen in movies or books or whatever, and I lived as that character. Like that's what I identified as, and people that knew me, my friends and such, would just be like, "That's Matt, but today he's Hunter S. Thompson." Like he's, he that's what. So they knew that that's what how I was going to be acting the whole time that I was at that party or at that event or whatever. They're
Hmm.
like, they just wrote it off as like, yeah, that's Matt. He's crazy, whatever, just deal with it. And, and, so with that, like the whole sense of self, like, how do we know who we are? Like, that's like something that I think gets
It
people
comes
in a
from
weird,
it comes from a lot of introspection that comes from self-awareness and spending a lot of time with yourself, which is also how you become comfortable with yourself, right?
yeah,
That's how you become comfortable with yourself and learn who you are, is spend time with yourself, journaling, meditating. Meditating doesn't work for me, but I'm sure it works for a lot of people. And that's a lot of sitting with yourself, right?
yeah, yeah. It's worked for me. Like, once I realized how to do it correctly, like, and it's very difficult still, even, and I haven't been doing it as much as I was several months ago, but I found that there's there's certain aspects of it that like once you start to get into it, you're like, wow, this is definitely different than what I imagined it was when I first tried to do it, and it's I think it's different. It's difficult to recommend it to everyone,
Mm,
because it's difficult for me to describe what it can do. Like, well, I can describe what it can do for you, but like I can't describe how to do it. And
yeah.
that's
I'm sure
That's a
it like
difficult.
can lower your blood pressure if you can learn to do it on command or whatever, and you're having a panic attack. It probably comes in really handy to
Yeah.
like be able to shut off the sounds and noises in your head. Like if you have that skill, that's probably really key to for some people. Imagine that, especially those that have uh, problems going out in public, social
Oh
anxiety
yeah.
disorder, because part of it is just all the things that your head is telling yourself that's based on nothing, that's making
Right.
you freak out. But if you can learn to shut them off, then
Yeah.
that's got to be a really good skill to have. I just, it's impossible because I'm guessing you just have to learn how to
Well,
shut all the
the
layers of thoughts off.
well, and it's not even it's well, that's what I was thinking too initially, but the it didn't come to me until I was doing it when I was like under the influence of psilocybin
Mm,
mushrooms, and when I was in this deep state of meditation, the thing that became apparent was that I didn't have to shut off anything. Like I just let things be, and I was able
mm,
to let go. That's the thing, was like you're able to let go of the idea of having to do anything for that period of time. And once you let go, like when you truly let go, like nothing outside of you, like nothing inside of you, like because inside we're constantly in this fight of control. Like we want to control like our mannerisms, our reactions, and all these things, and like depending on what the situation is we're in. But like when you're in a deep state of meditation, um you may get to the point, especially under the influence of hallucinogenics, like you are questioning everything at one point, but then once you tell yourself to keep, like, over and over and over again, just let go, like just let go, don't pay attention to the thoughts, you know,
mm,
let them just wash over you, and it becomes kind of like you're like laying in a river and you're floating downstream, and like nothing else matters to you. Like the only thing that matters is like in your present state of mind. You are in this present state of mind, and you are analyzing what's inside of you, like how you feel from your feet to the tips of your fingers to the top of your head. And like you start to, your mind is, if you're like me with like ADHD, like you're constantly thinking of things, and it's like a mile a minute hypersonic speed of like thoughts and processes, and you try to cancel out some of these thoughts. But like when you truly let go, and that's what like really changed my mind about a lot of stuff, was that like I don't have to always be in control of everything that I think and that everything that I do. And once I really let go and actually let go, that experience like changed something in me, like very deeply. Like it made me realize that I don't have to be anything but present in the current moment. Like in that current moment, no matter what situation I'm in, if I'm present in that current moment, then I can handle everything else that comes at me from that moment. And it's very difficult to get to that point, and I've tried to go about it so many different wrong ways over the years. And once I finally hit that point, it just changed everything. It changed the whole aspect of how I think and breathe and do things and react to things.
mm,
Like it's insane. I mean, it's so I'm glad you brought that up, because like I think that's something I probably needed to get out there at some point, because that is definitely something that changed my whole personality over the past couple of years. Um, I'm gonna have Rachel on at some point, and she can attest to how different I am now than what I was a couple years ago. And
that's ac-
it's all a part of like just it's like waking up.
mm.
It's waking up from like a bad nightmare, and then realizing things can get better at this point, like, and being content, like I am content. I admit that things went on years ago that really sucked, but like Okay, I'm rambling. This is what I do in these episodes sometimes. But
No, that's okay. I'm listening. I'm listening.
so you've been doing you have a website, you've been writing for a long time, you have artwork, you have a blog that I guess you've retired at this point.
Um, yeah, I officially retired it, I think a year and a half ago. Um, just because I hadn't been writing as much. And then it needed to be reformatted and all this other stuff, and I just wasn't in the mood for it. And it felt to me like I'm at a different place in my life now
Hmm.
that's different than when I started the blog in the first place. So I set up a new place to blog if I get around to writing. I'm very busy with the YouTube stuff, so it's hard to have time to do any writing in addition to everything else I do. But yeah, so I retired it just so that I could like start fresh, but still
Yeah.
allow people to go back and, you know, read, whatever is good and all the other rubbish that's on that site. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's amazing. And I try not to go onto it because it's like, wow, I probably wouldn't have written the same stuff now, this point in my life. You know what I mean? Like, this is, um, so I try not to go and look at it just because I don't want to, like a lot
Yeah.
of it was
Like,
journaling to get stuff out of my head and out of, and
yeah.
stuff like that. And so it feels like going back to look at your vomit, basically. I think that's the best way I can describe it. Like, it needed to come out, and it was what I needed at the time, but my
Yeah.
needs have changed and that no longer served me. So, but I still want people to have access to that because when I started writing it, I ended up helping a lot of people through my writing, um,
Hmm.
and gave them different perspectives on things that they had never thought about. So I don't want to take that away from being out there because the whole point was, in addition to helping myself, was to reach out and help other people. And
Yeah.
and so I don't want to take it out. It can be there, but I choose to not like draw attention to it if I don't have to. I've moved all my academic writing off of it onto my new website, which is www.withfrankie.net. And
Net.
also, yeah, and
Yeah.
then also justcallmefrank.net, I believe also directs there now. A few things direct there. Um, but
Well,
yeah,
that's cool. Like,
so I don't write as much because when I do write, it's unfortunately generally a tweet or a Facebook post, um, which is disappointing. But all of my real spare time is spent working on show notes for my YouTube channel and
yeah,
learning
creating
more
your
about
content.
creating
Yeah.
content, which takes up a fucking long time. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, it does.
it's. I mean, what else would I be doing? Obviously, I have the time to put into it, but it's almost reaching a threshold of like, how much time do I want to devote to it? How can I make my videos shorter so more people watch them? Like, but still make them like educational enough because that's what I'm working on now is the culinary boot camp series. And it's really difficult to take a subject matter and that you learned and you went to school for and it was part of a giant class and like put it into a less than, I mean, ideally less than 15-minute little, bit of information and expect anybody to get anything from it. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
there's a lot of subtleties and there's a lot of things you have to understand to get to the point of understanding what I just said. And so like how, you know what I mean? And I always want to give a lot of backstory and things to help people with context and
Yeah.
understanding. And it's really difficult to do,
Yeah. And
you know,
context isn't like, you wouldn't think it's would be so important, but like when you're trying to learn how to do something, and believe me, like when I look at YouTube videos like all the time trying to figure out how to like fix some kind of electronic, there's a bunch of videos out there, but like majority of the video seems like it's this person that fixes TVs, and they just go through all this information, and I'm like, what did the TV do? What were the symptoms, and
Mm.
how do you fix it? Like what part do I change out? So I'm scrolling through like an hour video, and so it's like they leave out. I watch the whole video, and I'm like, where is the actual part of like what is being fixed? So like your videos, I can tell, don't do that kind of thing. Like yours are pretty to the point, and
Mm.
like it seemed, and you get the context. You get the like the one with the chickens,
Oh.
that was almost I don't know, like that was hilarious. Like I felt like I had grown up on a farm my whole life, and I was like, this is what happens when you have to like feather chickens and do
Yeah.
all this, and I was like, this is context. This is like you are in that scenario, like you had been there your whole life. And I was like, that's perfect. Like that's what people need. They need that experience of being there and growing up like that, and you get the point across at the same time. And so like
Yeah.
with what, I don't know what you're doing now. I haven't watched the new videos, but like it's you're right. Context is important, and there's so many useless videos out there that just leave you guessing the whole time, like what was this person talking about, so it is difficult. So I commend you for putting in the effort to make sure that people know what you're talking about.
Yeah, because you don't want to watch a TV show or watch something that you like. I don't know what any of these terms mean. Like, what
Yeah,
does she mean when she says season a pan? Right? Like, so so I find it important to like have it broken down because I want to keep cooking on the channel, but I want to at least offer a little bit of education that doesn't involve me always cooking a meal, right? So I want it to be structured so I can give
yeah,
people a basis. So, like, if you really want to know what I'm talking about and I miss this one, like, oh man, I should have defined that in that scene and I didn't,
yeah.
then at least I feel like, well, if they don't understand it, I've already given them that information. They can go back and watch all the other stuff. Like in the case that I accidentally forget to put in, an
Mhm.
information card
Well,
or
plus one of the good things about YouTube is that you have the comments below the video that
mhm,
people can actually ask questions and stuff like that. Like with like I've come across the thing with like podcasting is I've realized that there's been things that I wanted to talk about during a specific episode with the guest, and I totally forgot. But like I don't have that comment section to post, like if someone said, hey, you didn't ask this person this or whatever, like, or what
mm,
does this person think about this, like, it's not that I don't have that, so at some point when I may start to convert some of these videos to, or some of these podcasts to video format, then maybe I'll get that. But like, yeah, it's kind of cool that you're doing YouTube directly pretty much, and like you have the opportunity to answer people's questions at
no,
some
yeah,
point, you know.
yeah.
So that's kind of cool. But hey, we should take a break real quick because we're coming up on like kind of a halfway point.
All right.
I keep saying that like I'm never doing a format again because like I keep trying to, the first several episodes I was like I'm going to do like a half an hour format where it's like half an hour and then continue, but the episodes go too long. So everyone out there, thank you for hanging in there with us. We'll be right back. Hey everybody, we are back. Um, I am
I
I
forgot
was
what
trying to
I
type something at the same
I
time.
I forgot where we left off, so this is going to be like starting a whole new conversation.
We went through a lot of stuff. I rambled on quite a bit. That's what I typically end up doing. but I was trying to give you room to talk. We were talking about a lot of mental health stuff. We talked about your blog, and writing, and content creation.
Mm.
You're doing a lot of work on YouTube, um, and yeah, so we were talking about a lot of that stuff. It was very, I think, good content so far. Let's see. Uh, Something I wanted to get into, like, I know you're doing a lot of content, and this can be kind of how we transition the show towards the end, and we can always, you're always welcome to come back, and we can get into deeper subjects if you want to. I know that you've um, my wife has read your blog and is a big fan
Mm.
from way back in the day. So she knows everything about you that you've ever written and is a big fan. I haven't, I've read a little bit here and there. And we've known each other for quite a long time, but haven't really met or spoken to each other for a long time. But there's a lot of interesting aspects, I think, to you, the person who is Frankie now, that is very, that I'm curious about, genuinely. Like, I'm curious, and I don't want to ever say anything that may make you uncomfortable or anything at any point. So I don't I follow you on Twitter, and I see
Mm.
what you tweet. I follow your content, and I think it's amazing. And I think overall, like, the bottom line is that I think you are a very interesting person. And Rachel loves you to death. and, and uh, as far as, like, mental health goes, that's like the thing with this. Like I said before in the last half, I want to do an episode where I talk about, and it kind of sucks to drudge up old things in
Mm.
your life when you've already
Dealt
moved
with
on
it.
from.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
but it's like there's those times. I think it's also, but also, like, on a, like, scientific level, I think it could be valuable information for people, for others in the
Mm.
future. Like, if we just deal with our issues and we move on, and we don't share those things and what we did to overcome challenges, then we're kind of just cutting other people off that may be in those kind of
Yeah. Well,
situations,
not everybody knows the different ways in which you can help yourself, right?
Right,
With your
right.
mental health. And so by, sharing, and a lot of people don't know what other people experience. Like what
Yeah.
you're like, until you hear what somebody else is experiencing, maybe you feel alone in what you're experiencing. You don't know that other people feel that
Hmm.
way, which was part of the
Yeah.
magic of Twitter. At, and when I was writing at that time, Twitter was a completely different world, and there were a lot of people there that were dealing with mental health very openly in very, unhealthy ways and all sorts of things like that. But it was what made communities. That's
Yeah.
where, I met Rachel, and where I met you was when it was different, and lots of people were, you know,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
wasn't
It's
as it
definitely.
wasn't as popular to talk about mental health 10 years ago as it is now. Now, Olympians can talk about mental health and there's no stigma, but even 10 years ago, like, it was really difficult, you know. Now everybody gets therapy, and you can fucking get therapy on your phone, and you don't have to leave your house for it. And like, all of that stuff didn't exist 10 years ago,
Yeah.
right? You just had to
Yeah, there's all
figure
these, like,
out.
mindfulness apps and, like, meditation apps, and
Yeah, none of that
people
shit
are making
existed.
millions of dollars off this stuff, and it's
Yeah.
like, everybody's, the most you would have heard about 10 years ago is like yoga or something, and it's like, even then you're like, didn't know there's actually, like, a form of meditation aligned with yoga that is gets you deeper into working with
Mm.
things like mindfulness and stuff, like, the things that you heard about back then were just, like, not even related. It was just kind of like a fashion thing, like, it was.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, 10 years ago, that all that stuff wasn't there, so people weren't as aware of, and weren't as aware of all the different subtleties of mental health issues. So
Do you think like the things like your old website with the blog and like the things you've wrote and like your even your artwork, which I have to comment like is really fucking awesome. Like I want to get a piece of your original artwork at some point because
it's
it really
literally just stacking against walls at this point, and I'm going to be starting to paint again soon. And yeah, I'm going to
because
need
a lot of
places to
people
start.
use like creativity as like a form of like of mental health uh relief or
Yeah.
like it's a form of like expression, I guess, and like getting out things, that.
That's absolutely for like I started drawing and stuff. I mean, my art's okay, but I started drawing when I was, before I was a teenager, when I was young. I started, I had a very, you know, creative minded, you know, I had to be creative.
Upbringing.
Yeah, I had to
Yeah.
be creative. I grew up on a farm, and like the only people I had really to hang out with for the entire summer were my younger brothers. And you know, you and you're not that age. I was already unhappy with like the situation I was in, and I would read a lot to escape and stuff like that. So yeah, like
Yeah.
creativity came, like I started writing poetry probably at 10 or 11 years old,
Hmm.
and wrote it all the way through high school and into my adulthood. And I've been
Wow.
artistic, and always have wanted to create and be an artist. I mean, I went to university for fine arts for about a year and a half. So
Yeah, I took a lot of before I went into the military, I did pretty much nothing but art classes. Like that was my whole college for like 2.5 years. I just did nothing but art classes, and
because
then
it
I
helps your
decided
mental health, right? Like you
it
probably
did. Like, I
felt
mean, I was already an
extremely,
alcoholic at that point, but like it
yeah.
just was, like this whole other world that I was able to escape my reality, because I was, poor. I was like, I was like 18, 19, living on my own in a big city. And I needed, like, I borrowed money from a friend of mine to take college classes. And like, it was insane. It was an insane time. And like, I didn't ever go to high school. I like totally skipped high school, I went and got my GED and then started taking college art classes. And it was just
Mm,
like, opened up this whole world of like creativity. And I'm like, I just want to do things like write and draw and paint and do all these things. And I was just looking for any form of expression I could at that point in time. And then when I joined the military, I pretty much cut off that part of my life. Like I I I tucked it away.
mhm,
I didn't quite crumble it up and throw it into a trash can, but like I pretty much imagined that it didn't exist at that point. Like I once I became a Marine, I uh, was a I was a still a creative person. I had that in the background, but like at that point, I was like, I want to move on with my life. I want to become something else, and it was just a crazy thing that I did, and I don't even I kind of contribute that now to a part of like the PTSD that I was suffering because like I was forcing myself to become something that I was not, and it just
mm,
like I was forcing myself into this like conservative kind of like anti-liberal way of
mhm,
thinking where like I was I'm a born killer, like I'm someone who can I will travel the world and have all these experiences and be this military guy for life and forget who I used to think I was just a child that didn't know anything about the world, kind of thing. And it just and that's like what I think the reason I did that was because I was already having mental health issues and I was an alcoholic. So
mm,
uh, the alcohol, along with the mental health issues, created this weird delusion that I could become something else, and that's what I'm waking up from. for the
Mm.
past couple of years. I'm like, I was never that guy. I've pretty much, since I was always an artist and always into creative things and always into music, really like really deeply into music, there's this huge liberal aspect of my life that like I do have a lot of feelings and emotions for people and for things and everything around me. Like I care about the grass and the trees and
Mm.
I'm really not that guy who joined the Marines. Like I'm that guy that joined the Marines, but I'm not the guy I became when I was in there.
Mm.
Like I didn't want to go to like other countries. I didn't want to have to like do the things that I did. Like I'm not a killer. I'm not like, you know,
Mm.
that's not me. I'm not that. I don't care about that stuff. I mean, I was pretty much when I went in, I worked on airplanes, and that gave me a good job later. But I wasn't that mentality. I wasn't that persona that I put on when I was there. So
Mm.
so it's crazy. I mean, I do need to go into all that stuff deeper at some point, but this is your episode, so so as far as like our art and all this stuff, it is like an escape, and we do creative things to kind of get out of some of our mindsets when we're having issues that we deal with. Um,
I
at
think
what point did you find where you needed? This is something I want to hit on. Is like, at what point did you realize that you thought you maybe needed medication?
okay, well, that's a long story because I've been on and off
Okay.
medication since I was 19, 18, and 19.
Oh
And
wow.
that was a
So maybe
long
we'll have
time
to have
ago.
another episode.
Long
Or
time
we'll just
ago.
refer. Did you cover a lot of that, like in your blog and stuff,
Oh,
or like?
absolutely. I think at the time
Okay.
I had a better handle because I had all my medical records near me when I wrote it because I wanted to make sure I
Wow.
knew because I've written about like different medications that they had put me on and things like that. And, you know, there's a lot of information there and like things definitely impacted my mental health and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, and then I went off medications and I ended, you know, I got my first divorce and then I don't think I was on medication again for a really long time. And then I got overworked and overstressed and was working an airport job post 9/11, but before the
Mm,
government took it over. And I was hearing voices and shit like that. And then I lost my mind a bit and ended up having to leave. I was living in Colorado and then I went back on medications because that's what happens when you hear things. Uh,
yeah.
um, and I stabilized. It was with a different doctor in a different part of the country, and it was years later. And I must have got on the right medication, and then I lost like 100 pounds. Which is life changing. If anybody who's ever lost that amount, like it changes how people treat you. And
Mm.
so I
And
stabilized
that's
on
kind of weird. Like,
yeah,
that
yeah.
thing. Like, I mean, I was never super overweight, but the past like 5, 8 years or so, like, well, even like I guess 3 years or so, like I've gained a lot of weight, especially during this pandemic.
Yeah.
Like, and I just feel so different than what I used to because even when I was an alcoholic and I drank beer like every single day, like I never
Mm.
gained any weight. And it was just weird.
Welcome
But
to
like them,
aging, by the way. It's part of aging. That really fucking
yeah.
sucks.
And now I'm like, oh my God, my kids are growing and they're almost taller than me. And I'm like,
Ugh.
I say they keep growing up and I keep growing out.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and I'm like, but I want to stop that though. I need to get healthy. I
Yeah.
want to. I want,
Well,
I want to get healthier and I want to like lose some weight. And, it's just, I think it's important for overall health,
I
like
think
to,
it definitely was good for my mental health. Like it, I don't know if it was just in response of how differently people treat you and the sense of more confidence you have when you can achieve something like that. I
yeah.
don't know if that was part of it. But I still didn't go off. I was on Wellbutrin. I still didn't go off the Wellbutrin for quite a few years after that. And then I went off of it, and I was off of it for, I think, 11 years until just this past fall. And now they put me on Lexapro, which was a really shitty, it's a real shitty drug. And,
Mm.
and it didn't work. I was losing hair and gaining weight. And I was like, this is no way.
Oh
This
God.
is not going to help my anxiety any, being fat and bald at my age. So I immediately started weaning myself off, because if you've never been on mental health medications, then you don't understand, like, some of them you have to wean yourself on and you have to wean yourself off. You can't
Yeah.
go off cold turkey, or you could, it would
Oh
be
yeah.
like, it would be like, uh, it would just be terrible. I keep thinking of like an acid flashback or something, like, not that I know what those are, but from various texts I've read of experiences of it, like if you
Yeah.
go off of the wrong mental health med too fast, you will have an episode, like a psychotic type. You could have a psychotic type
Yeah.
episode. So I
And
weaned myself
I've
off.
been there. I've definitely been
Yeah.
there. Like the thing is like it's that the SSRIs they change.
Hmm.
There's the there's MAOIs, there's SSRIs, and there's the dopamine ones, the ones that affect dopamine. But they're like your neurotransmitters in your brain, and like when you are on a SSRI, which is a serotonin reuptake inhibitor, it will boost the serotonin levels in your brain during those pathways, those neural pathways. And when you stop taking it, it's like it's immediate like reduction of that serotonin. And like
Yeah.
you, for me, when I tried to quit cold turkey, I would get these like electrical zaps in my brain, and the electrical zaps were caused because like the neurotransmitters, the pathways were not getting that connection that they're used to. So like the zap was just like this weird electrical, and that's what our brains are. It's like there's electricity flowing around between these neurotransmitters, and when we don't get what that neurotransmitter is producing, or what is our what our body is producing for the brain, like it doesn't get what it needs, then it's like a reduction of that. And like, but if we get too much of what it is, then it can send us into something that's called like serotonin syndrome. And I've had that too. And that is like where you just feel completely nauseated and like
Mm.
upset and sad and like sick for like a long time because your brain is flooded with serotonin, and like you just can't do anything about it. And that's when you get like different medications that are mixed up. But the when you try to go off of them completely, your
Mm.
brain's like, oh, I don't have what I'm used to having, so let's just go ahead and shock the shit out of this guy and let him know that we don't have what we're normally used to getting.
Yeah.
and and that sucks. And it's like I had everything from like vertigo to, you know, like walking down a hallway would all of a sudden feel like I was like 10 flights up and looking down, you know, a
Yes.
skyscraper, you know, and you're like, whoa, this isn't happening. And you're like trying to grab the wall. And you're like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so like those medications, they are very they're something that we people, you know, us humans have to look at and be educated about and know that there's definitely some side effects that we have to
Mm.
get used to. So like weaning off of them is the best uh,
Especially if
form
it's an
of
SSRI, especially if it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah, because
I don't think it's as bad if it's dopamine, because dopamine is like our like pleasure receptors. So like
mm,
if you are, you know, the serotonin is kind of like the you know, I guess it makes you, it's not a happy thing, but like I don't know. But I think serotonin is kind of a happy thing, but like the dopamine is like the super pleasure thing.
mm,
And I don't know. I've read it like a million times, but I don't have it committed to memory yet. I just know what it feels like when you don't take those medications, and that's the thing. Like when you're on, if you're depressed, they give you SSRIs. If you
mm-hmm.
have other kinds of mental illnesses, then they give you the stuff that affects your dopamine levels and things like that.
Yeah, I'm not sure Lexapro was the right choice. And when I and I went off of it, and then I got another appointment, and I requested Wellbutrin because I know I have done quite well with no side effects on Wellbutrin. It was the last medication I was on. I don't recall
Hmm.
at this time why I went off of them, but I know I had, my blog is pretty much like my mental unraveling from, having a severe mental break in a way. Um, so so I'm comfortable going back on it because I've been on it with, no problems, but um I don't want to stay on it long. Like you said, they all come with side effects, right? There's something it's
Yeah.
doing that's probably not good for my body because I don't know of any medication created ever that there is not some sort of side effect, and a lot of them are just heinous side effects. Like, have you
Yeah.
ever listened to I know other countries don't, they don't have prescription drug commercials in other countries. So other
Yeah.
countries,
I don't
like,
know.
unless you've been on a medication, I doubt people in some countries realize, like, here's the Xanax, or here's this Wellbutrin, but because they don't see the commercials or ever hear like all the horrid side effects that they are required to tell you about at the end,
Yeah.
like
Nausea, vomited, diarrhea.
that.
Like they just go on and
I
on and on.
I have yet to see a commercial that makes the drug worth any combination of the side effects. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there's nothing I've heard that's like, sure, I'll feel depressed, but I think one of your side effects is depression. So I don't know how that's going to work. Like, you know what I mean? Some of the side effects that they purport are what the medication is supposed to be preventing, right? So
Yeah.
some antidepressants cause depression, and it's like, well, then why am I taking it? If it's,
Well, and the thing was like the whole like every single one of them that I heard back in the day was like may cause like suicidal thoughts,
yeah, I
and I'm
got
like,
those already.
what
Thanks. Like, that's the last thing I
what
fucking
kind of
need.
drug do you want to take? That why you want to give me a drug that may cause like suicidal thoughts? Like I already have those. That's
Yeah,
just gonna make it
exactly.
worse, like
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
that was a big thing. That was a big issue with me was like I had constant suicidal ideation. And the ideation is like you don't plan on going through with it, but like every 10 seconds of my life for over 20 years I thought about different ways to kill myself. And like that's how I lived. I lived every single day thinking, "Oh, this is be a cool way to do it, or this would be a cool way to do it, or
Oh,
this would be a
yeah.
cool way to do it." And
Yeah.
like it just got so old, and it got to the point where when I actually felt like super depressed during those repetitive, like obsessive thoughts that I would get, I was like, I should just do that. Maybe I should just do this. Maybe I should do it this way.
Mhm.
Maybe I should do it this way. And it got so repetitive that I'm like, there is something fucking wrong with me. I need to stop doing this because I don't like it. And it's like you get to a point where like you're okay, the medicine I'm on and all the therapy I'm getting and the doctors I'm
Yeah.
talking to, it's not helping. And that was a turning point for me when I started looking into alternative forms of medicine and stuff. And
Mhm.
that's why I'm like, there's got to be something different. And then that's what made me started researching microdosing psychedelics, and that was like the change. That was the turning point. It was like something that's all natural, something you don't hear the commercials with all the side effects, something that was thousands of years ago people were doing regularly in ceremony
Mhm.
to help their people get through the day and do things and have life changes or get through illnesses and all this stuff. I'm like, there's something there that I think may be able to help me that all this other treatment resistant stuff that I've been doing. Like everything I've been doing has been treatment resistant. Like I don't feel any better through all the therapy and all this
Mm.
stuff. Like it's not helping. So it's definitely treatment resistant. Whatever I have is not. It's not getting better. So that's why I'm like I need to look into alternatives, and that's when I found what helped me, and that's what I'm going to like go into in depth more later in a different episode. But like, it's definitely worked for me, and people that are out there, they may look, they may hear this, and I definitely suggest to research microdosing psychedelics, because there's something, it's helping a lot of people. There's a lot of good information out there. People that work in like Silicon Valley, that are working in cubicles, designing and uh, writing code for programs like that. It's something that helps them be more creative and get them through the day, and help them not be as stressed through all the things that they have to deal with. And there's other people that are like end of life cancer patients, that are so uh, feeling so stressed out and have a lot of anxiety about their upcoming unfortunate end of life, potentially, and they're feeling so much more relieved, I guess, from the reports I've read, that they don't have this anxiety, and that's something I wish that I could have. That's something I wish I could have done for my dad. Like when my dad was in a nursing home, and I got a call one day that he had passed. Like I wish that I would have known about this stuff back then, because I would have gone and sat with him, and I would have like, if there was been a way to administer psilocybin mushrooms before he had passed. Like, I don't know if he was anxious. I don't know if he was feeling bad or depressed or anything like that. But like, it's something I think about occasionally, that I don't know how he felt, and that really sucks that I don't know, because I didn't visit him enough. I didn't go see him when he was just laying there in the old folks' home, deteriorating, and I had no idea what he was going through. And I wish I would have, and I wish I would have known the stuff I know now, because I would have like suggested it at that point in time. I said, I would have uh, gone and spent more time, at least, in the very least, not like giving him mushrooms when he's sitting in the retirement home, but I would have gone and sat with him more and talked to him about my experiences with it and how it helped me with depression and things. But you know, it's all in the past. But like, hopefully it helps other people, and that's why I want to like get that information out there. And that's what I hope, that a lot of other people that doing the research can help people that feel as bad as I felt back
Mm.
then, will be able to have that relief at some point. And I don't know.
Yeah, I don't have any experience with shrooms. People keep telling me that to try it, but I'm skeptical. I don't feel like I have qualms about doing anything that's a hallucinogenic. So I'm not super thrilled about the idea of trying it, but just
Well,
because I know how my
we
brain
need to
works.
talk about
So
we need to talk about how your brain works and like what you think, and then like figure out if it is even
yeah,
something that is an option, so like, that's something to get into at some point. And
yeah. I think
it's
that
never, I don't believe in pushing people into anything. That's
no,
not
but I
good.
think that I know Rachel knows a little of my stance on it because I think I've written it to you before, and I think she understands like why I have the strong belief that it's not a good choice for me, just given my mental health diagnoses in the past. And like, I don't want anything that's going to be triggering or
Yeah.
anything that's going to undo all the hard work that I've done on my mental health in the past 10 years.
Yeah.
Like, I don't
Well,
want
and
anything
that's
to
like the whole
undo
thing.
it.
It's all about like knowing like what you're getting into, and not to like go over a certain dosage. And like some people say, I just want to have fun, and so they do like 10 times the dose of what
Mm,
a normal
yeah.
person would do for just an average good time, like psychedelic trip or something. And it's like they find themselves in a living hell. And it's like, well, of course you didn't do it the right way. Like you
so
have to, like
so here's the other thing is that I'm a very like, if I'm gonna have one drink, I'm gonna have all the drinks. If I'm gonna have this, I'm gonna do all of this, or as much of it as I can in a, that's not gonna kill me. And so everybody's like, oh, but shrooms aren't addictive and blah, blah, blah. But if you have the mentality that, well, especially when it comes to like drugs and alcohol, that makes you want to keep going and push your limits and experience it to is the fullest extent, I'm going to say shrooms are not for you, because you're going to override. Like, everybody's like, "Oh no, but you know, you don't want to do it that often." Oh, fuck you. I'm going to want to do it all the time, and I know that about my, how my brain
Yeah.
works. So, I don't want to
Well,
mess around with it, because yes, it's microdosing, it does great things, and that's what you're talking about, right? Is microdosing.
well, yeah, the microdosing. I mean, well, it's
But I
both.
would
Like,
take
I
it
mean,
too far, and I know I would have a bad trip. I know I would have a bad trip because I know enough about them that it's very important how your mindset is going into it. And I
yeah,
cannot convince myself that I wouldn't have a bad trip. So going into it, my brain's already like, we're going to do this. We're going to do this.
yeah.
And so I don't
Well,
want
it's
to,
like the difference between a bad trip and good trip is that there is no bad trip and there is no good trip. The thing is that you get the trip that you need, not the one that you want.
Yeah, I would love to look at it that way, but I've heard of people who have really terrifying, again, mostly from
Oh, and
books,
I have had a pretty
and
terrifying experience,
I've
and
had
I
enough
look at it
like,
back now and I'm like, that really kind of sucked, but I see now why my brain did that. I see why I thought that, like, if you go into it too cocky, like, and expect something, like, you're going to get what you least suspect.
yeah,
And like that's the thing.
I'm not up for that Russian roulette. I've had enough
Yeah.
like terrifying mental health experiences
Yeah,
that
yeah, you definitely
were
don't want to,
like,
like,
I don't
put
want,
yourself into a
yeah.
psychotic break and then end up in the hospital.
Yeah,
That's
like,
not a good thing. Yeah.
I've mostly avoided hospitalization this long, and I would like to make it to the end
Well, you're
without, like,
lucky then.
because I was in like I was in day programs, like a day program when I had like
I
my
spent
very
like 2 weeks
first.
in a place and it was not fun.
It was mostly
It was not
because
fun.
my husband at the time was pretty adamant about me coming home to cook dinner and not to be like unavailable
Oh my
to
god.
take him to work in the mornings and stuff like that. So I got the day program, which is like if you drop your kid off at school and then you come back at the end of the day and you pick them up, and that was like, that's been my the only time of like, it was group therapy, and it was really not like, not my bag. And after that it
That's
was
like a
like, I was like, "Ugh." And I got the like mental hospital
that's like a
light
work release
version.
program. Like, you're like in
Yeah.
jail, but like you are released to go to work for the day and then you come back to jail. Like,
It's
that's
it's the
not
it's the mental institute light experience. So it's like not full strength mental institute. You get to be here all day with other nutters who are also gonna, most of them go home. Like some of them are still in there or whatever, but, and that's rude to say nutters,
oh man.
but I mean all the best people
I need
are.
an episode
So whatever.
about my psychotic break. I need to make an episode about that. Now the how the mental institution I was in, like, was was very humorous at times, because like you wake up in the middle of the night with people screaming down the hall, and like you walk to the door and you're like, it sounds like somebody's outside your door, or even have people banging on your door, and like you
Mm.
walk to look at the door and there's like people wrestling with somebody in the middle of the hallway as they're like shitting themselves and like just going crazy, and you're like thinking in your mind, you're like, I feel okay right now, but I don't, because the situation really sucks. And like, why am I here again? Like, it's just,
Mm.
it's crazy. Like, and to think that people were in these situations like hundreds of years ago, that, they were getting lobotomized
Oh
because
yeah.
they thought differently or may have been autistic or something like that, but people didn't know how to deal with them, so they put them in institutions, and they like, you
Mm.
know, said, let's fix them. There's nothing wrong with them. They're just neurodivergent, like it's just
Yeah, now
things
they've
have
just got
changed.
now they've just got medications to numb your receptors
Yeah.
and get you more zombified so that you're not like as much of a problem on society as,
Yeah.
like cuz there are a lot of people out there walking around with strong mental health medications, and like
Hmm.
if they miss, if they miss the wrong combination of medications, people might be in trouble. Like,
Yeah.
at least that person is gonna get unhinged and like start being, you know,
That's why like all these like Marines go postal, and they're like after like Vietnam, and they come back and they're working in the post office. You hear about
uh,
these ex-Marines going postal, and it's like, well, it's because they were freaking they have PTSD. They were not getting treated.
yeah,
Like of course
yeah.
they're gonna like their manager's gonna set them off because they're
All of a
not
sudden,
getting treated right in the workplace. And
all of a sudden, they're parked out in front of a fucking company in an armored car, threatening to blow up the street. Like, yeah,
oh man.
yeah.
Well, let's see. What else do we need to cover here? We're getting. It's been
What are
pretty
you
long so
what are you
far.
doing what are you serving with your Thanksgiving dinner tonight?
I think we're going to do. I'm going to do some Kansas City strip steaks.
Mm.
I seasoned my cast iron skillets that I just got because I've been wanting to get those for a long time. I had them in the oven. They're cooling off now. Uh, gonna cook those. Rachel's gonna cook a acorn squash,
Mm.
and that's gonna be pretty good. And she made a salad with spinach, I think, and some other stuff. I think. What was the other thing? She's looking at her phone, so I can't ask her.
Are you making
um,
sure to take that meat out of the let it come to room temperature before you throw it in a pan?
yeah, definitely. Man, I should have done that already, but I totally forgot.
Yeah,
Um,
season, and make sure to season it so it gets nice. So it's gonna have a nice
yeah.
color on the outside. Yeah. What are you
The
having for
last ones I
dessert?
did were I did some ribeye, and
Mm.
those were amazing. Like I had never cooked such a good steak before. Like
Ribeye is
they
the
are
best cut of steak, hands down. Especially if you're
like
not
it
opposed to
just
like good marbling. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
I love the
yeah.
fat of
Like
steak. I love fat off steaks, so I like fatty steaks. But
I got so
and it
spoiled
definitely
for
is.
like so many years from like living off of the company that I worked for, because like whenever I would travel, and they had me traveling like all the time, a couple times a month, like they would pay for everything. So I would go to these nice
Oh,
restaurants and get the
nice.
like the best steak dinner, and I was like, "Oh my god, like I was getting like just these just whatever was like good on there that wasn't too expensive, but like I'm
Mm.
like I would get like the reasonable price something, and it was just amazing, and I got so much experience with trying different good foods from doing that, and I was like, and then after I stopped working for them, I'm like, fuck, that's all over now. I guess I
Yeah,
can't ever eat good again, you know. But then I'm like, why don't I just learn how to cook like that, and then I
exactly.
can have it whenever I want. And so I have. So I've started doing that. Plus, I've had inspiration. Like you've been talking about, like, and showing all these pictures on like Instagram and stuff of like your keto things and all that. And
Mm.
I'm like, I've never been such a big cook, but like I've always loved grilling. I have a grill
Mm.
outside, but now it's getting colder, so I'm like, I need these cast iron skillets so I can cook good steak.
Yeah.
So like, so I'm gonna start looking at some of your recipes and things like that. I'm like, I want to make some of that stuff.
Yeah, I'm gonna be creating some more too, hopefully. We'll see. We'll see how many people pick up on the the series that I'm gonna be doing, and we'll see how that goes. What'd you guys make
Well,
for
I hope it
dessert?
goes well.
What'd you guys make for
Oh,
dessert?
there's no dessert.
No dessert. What? It's a
No
holiday. That's the
dessert.
only time there is desserts.
Well, we have dessert all the time. We have ice
Oh,
cream and all kinds of
oh,
crap. That's all the we eat candy. We got a big huge bowl of candy and like we had to like make a system where we have a little check mark or like a little if we take a few pieces of candy, we tick marks down on the thing, you know, four and then across it, like one across.
oh
So
my
like
god.
if we take a few pieces, then we have to mark it down every time on a little index card that's taped to the bottom of the lid of the container that they're in. So like
Oh wow.
we're not we're not just we're crazy. We're cool. We keep track of all of our
That's I like that.
our
That's
bad
really
habits.
no. That's good. No, in my house, it's dessert on holidays and like uh, sometimes maybe I'll have pudding. Now that I found that new company that sells a really good quality keto pudding. But other than that, like I'll have yogurt. That's what I have for dessert. Is usually
Mm.
yogurt and fruit with you know little to no sweetener sometimes, and that's about it. So on holidays, it's like I bake. So I made a cheesecake, a pumpkin cheesecake. Where
Oh my god, I miss
that
cheesecake.
that's literally what's sitting in my kitchen right now is a cheesecake. I'm like, I want to go eat my cheesecake, but I have to eat my dinner first. But
I miss
uh,
cheesecake. That's like the best. Like that's like my favorite thing. Like any kind of cake, I'm like
do
I
you
don't
have
care
you
about
not
cake,
made
but
a cheesecake?
I've made cheesecake, but like it's been a long time. But I've
No.
had cheesecake, and
Oh,
it's like
I generally don't like
I
to
love it.
order cheesecake because I make a really good cheesecake. Like people think about my cheesecake. So
When I used to travel, I used to stop at like cheesecake. Was it Cheesecake
Cheesecake
Factory? Is
Factory?
that what it's
No,
called?
that's trash. That's trash. That's trash.
Well, I mean, I used to stop there anyway because it was expensive and I could afford it at the
Uh
time. But like nowadays, there's no way in hell I would go there.
no.
But
They're cheesecakes just because they say they're a cheesecake factory doesn't mean that they serve good cheesecake. I can
true.
guarantee you, like, I've had enough people who I trust to tell me like how good my cheesecake is. So
Man, I
but
miss
I
cheesecake.
also don't order desserts out much. So just because if I can make it better at home, I just don't want to do it. So I wouldn't normally order cheesecake. Maybe something that's like a more chocolate and cakey in general, but I don't eat sweets, so it's really difficult. This is a keto friendly cheesecake. Like I used
Oh,
a keto friendly graham cracker crust mix that's mostly I think made of nuts, crushed up nuts. And then my normal cheesecake recipe, I've adapted it so that I can use my favorite sweeteners instead of like sugar. So my favorite like low carb sweeteners like erythritol or monk fruit sugar.
hmm.
So I can't get that anywhere else. Like so I there's hardly any desserts out there at restaurants that are keto friendly or low carb friendly or diabetic friendly or gluten free friendly. So
Yeah. Are you going to be covering all this stuff like in your content that you're creating on your channel, or are you?
well, I mean eventually I'll talk about stuff like that, but primarily it's mostly going to be um, like teaching some stuff before nutrition because I don't want to.
Hmm,
Nutrition's not a huge like. I don't think as many people are interested in nutrition as I'd like to believe. Like
right,
understanding
right.
what's a carb, understanding why
People
how
want to
your
know what tastes good and how to make it, kind of thing. Like, is
yeah
that what you're saying? Like,
they're not as interested in knowing like how your body processes so that like different types of fuel it can use other than carbohydrates because everybody's like oh carbohydrates is what drives your body but really that's not the whole story but nobody wants to listen to that so and there are definitely likely youtubers out there who are very well versed in nutrition I'd only studied it for like a year and a half at the university level so I have a good enough understanding but nobody really wants to know necessarily, unless it's a keto dish that I've created. And then then I talk a bit about it. But my very first video, I think, on my channel is me talking about what keto is and
Hmm.
and the aspects of a keto diet. I might remake it eventually, because part of eventually where my teaching will go is to talking about different kind of diets and vegan diet and vegetarian diet, and how like by mixing, bean and rice, you can make complete protein. And that's the only way to make a complete protein outside of eating animal flesh. Is like, one of the great things
Oh
about
wow.
meats is that it's a complete protein, and no other food offers the kind of quality protein. The closest it comes is like rice and beans, and the minerals and chemicals in them together create. Oh, that's why in a vegetarian diet or a vegan diet, rice and beans are generally important. And poor people in poor countries, it's how countries where meat is very expensive. You
Yeah.
can eat rice and beans, and it's gonna make complete protein.
Yeah, I've been wondering about that because I've been hearing a lot about like the carnivore diet and stuff like that, where you
Yeah,
basically eat like tons of meat, and I'm like, that's way too fucking expensive because like
yeah,
I buy
yeah.
like a steak, I buy two steaks at the place that's the cheapest place to get groceries around here, and it's still like $20 a piece for that steak, and I'm like, that's $40. I'm like,
Right
I
now,
try to,
meat is
you know.
more expensive than it has been in the past. So,
Yeah, yeah. But I buy pork steaks for like 4.50, and I'm like, I can buy a
yeah,
ton of pork steaks. And
yeah,
I'm
but
like,
it's
I
just
love
like a
pork steaks because that's how I grew up. But,
yeah.
you
Pork
know,
is definitely one of the cheaper of the meats for sure right now.
yeah.
But yeah, the
But
carnivore diet's just too much meat. Like, I like vegetables.
yeah, I do too. Like, but I want to get the protein, but I don't want as much of the fats, but
You
I
want the fats.
love,
That's what you want is
well, yeah,
protein.
I don't want to gain weight, but at the same time, I love crap that's like French fries and
Oh, yeah.
whatever, like,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
just not doing it's not doing me any favors by eating all this garbage that I eat when I eat it. And I'm like, I didn't have to worry about this stuff when I was so active all the time. And that's why I'm trying to
Mhm.
get back into things like skateboarding and stuff like that. But it's like, it's just difficult because it's getting cold, and I'm like, I don't want to go outside. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't want to do all this stuff. And I have like an exercise thing out in my garage, like an elliptical thing, but like I don't want to, if I get on that thing for like 2 3 minutes, I'm like, oh my god, I'm wore the fuck out. And I'm like, what did I even try to do this for? I'm like, can't do it, I can't keep up.
Yeah.
Like I used to run like 3 miles like every other day, and I'm like, I don't want to do that shit anymore. I hated running when I was in the military, and I'm
Mm.
like, the only reason I want to run now is if I'm trying to get away from like zombies trying to eat me, and it's not gonna,
Well, you got to
you
train for
know.
that. You got to train for that.
Well, yeah, like in the whole zombie land thing, there's like cardio, that's one of your rules. You got to have
No,
cardio so you can
I
run
love
away
that.
from them.
Hmm.
You got to like have the double tap so you can make
Yeah.
sure they're dead. Don't just like shoot them once and like walk up on them because they're not. Yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I think we're getting pretty close here. I think we should wrap it up.
All right.
And you want to, let's see, I've got some of your info here. If you want to share with the public how to find you online on social media or your website and stuff like that. Um,
Well, my
if you
blog,
don't know it
not my
off the top
blog,
of your
my
head, I have it written down.
oh no, my YouTube is www.youtube.com/with Frankie, and swallowed some water wrong. Um,
You have like a
my
link tree too, or linktr.ee.
I think if you go to all my links .com, and then you do the / just call me Frank, then I think you can get there. But if you go to Twitter, it's at Just Call Me Frank, and then there are links starting from there that can get you all the information you need if you really care.
Oh, people care. Everyone
Uh,
cares.
no, nobody cares, and that's the truth.
Yeah, true.
We
Okay,
we live in a
so
post we live in a post caring society.
post caring. So hopefully we can discuss more microdosing stuff and psychedelics. I think that even though we talked about it, I maybe there's some aspects you're not um,
Considering.
considering. That's a good
Mm.
word. Yeah, maybe there's some aspects you're not considering because I would not like want you to do anything. I don't recommend to anyone they do anything that they are not comfortable with and not fully um, educated about or knowledgeable about. And that's never a good way to go into something like that. If you want to have fun and do drugs, there are plenty of other things besides psychedelics. If you want to learn about yourself and you want to understand how things around you work, then maybe uh, go into psychedelics with like a ceremonious kind of mindset and stuff like that. But yeah, Frankie, thank you for being on here. We will talk to you soon. Um, I'm sure that, well, Rachel loves you to death. My wife,
Yes,
she is amazing.
give her a
She's put
hug
up
for
with
me.
me. I will, absolutely. Everyone out there, thank you for listening. If you can definitely look up, if you're interested in some cool artwork, look up Frankie too. And if you want to find out how to cook stuff and how to learn how to do all kinds of like home renovations and all that, like Frankie does it all. She is a multi-talented person all over the spectrum. So
Hmm.
definitely look up that YouTube channel. It's awesome. Let's see. Oh, I want to shout out Tom Stewart from My Paranormal Story podcast.
Hey,
He was on
Tom.
the last episode. Thank you, Tom, for being on. It was a good episode. I enjoyed talking with you. I hope to learn more about paranormal stuff because I've always been interested in that. I have some ghost story things I've remembered since we've talked, and definitely want to talk about that some more, get his thoughts on that stuff. Um, Everybody, thanks for listening. Check out our website, the linktr.ee/wormhole_manifest. The Twitter is at wormfestpod. Instagram is wormhole_manifest. And if you have anything you want to tell me, like how I suck or how much this podcast is the worst thing you've ever heard, just send me a message at wormholemanifest@gmail.com. I will reply to everything. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Frankie, for being on.
Thanks for having me again.
Yep, no problem. Hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Absolutely.
Everybody, take care. Have a good Thanksgiving, Christmas, all that stuff. Stay tuned for more episodes that will be coming out between now and then. I'm going to stack up some episodes and release a bunch at the same time so we have plenty to get us through the holidays. So, everyone, peace.
Bye.